And hello. How are you all doing today? Y'all, this is Tab Nashville Gospel Radio, WFTB 104.1 FM, also being recorded, Sacrificial Conversations podcast. And Monica, how are you doing? It's a pleasure to be with you on this day.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Mr. Chisholm, on these Mondays.
Yes. Last week, Monica and friends, they had an amazing show,
Thank you.
I just want to give it up for the ladies on last week. But tonight, you all, we come back, you all, strong. And tonight, you all, we are talking about something, y'all, that is... It affects all of us, you all, but a lot of us do not like to talk about this. We know what month this is.
Yes.
And we were blessed. I've been blessed to be connected to so many people, doctors, people that really go the extra mile to try to help the community and do things in their life. And tonight, you all, we have a special guest once again. I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about herself. But like I say, tonight, you all, we're going to be talking about mental health. Something, like I said, that we don't like to talk about, a lot of us, but it's something that we must talk about. Our community must dive into these things because it's so many things that can help you live in purpose and be a part of a moving society or doing something that's going to be great in your life if you can control what's going on, first of all, in your mindset. And me and this young lady had an amazing recap last night on about what we're going to talk about, Monica. So it's going to be an amazing time tonight. So without further ado, Miss Kendria Driver, will you please introduce yourself once again to our platform, our people, and to the family of WFTB 104.1 FM. Can you please introduce yourself tonight?
Yes, well, first I want to thank you for having me and thank you for giving space for this conversation. It's very, very important. My name is Kendria Driver, as you said.
Yes.
I am a licensed clinical social worker. And so my background originally was in the as a medical social worker in the medical setting, but I'm really passionate about being a therapist and providing therapy to clients in a private practice setting. So that's my background, and I enjoy it.
So when you say you, what's some of your major things that you deal with in your practice, Kendra? What are some of the top priorities that you deal with in your practice?
So most my clients come to me because they're experiencing anxiety or depression. A lot of it's both of those things. And overall, just feeling stuck. A lot of people just feel stuck. And, there are people who are struggling with past trauma and may not even realize it. They just don't understand why their behaviors are the way, whether they're not able to cope as well as they should. And so I would say a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, social anxiety as well. And again, overall, just not knowing the direction where to go.
Where to go. Mm-hmm. Monica, you got something you want to drop in real quick?
Of course, I do, sir.
Yes.
So, Kendra, anxiety. Mm-hmm. Different versions of anxiety. Would you say how many is anxiety, or is it different? Like, I had experienced anxiety as a young mother because I was trying to get the kids to school, daycare, go to work, and then have a stressful job.
Right.
And then you get out work, you got to go pick them up by a certain time as they charge you more money. Right. So I think between all that and having a boss that wasn't nice.
Okay. Yeah.
And then just that aspect of it. Husband that worked a lot of hours. Was a diabetic, just worried about him. So a lot of things on the plate.
Yes.
And didn't know that it was an anxiety attack until it happened in a car with my child. And I was like, what do I do? I don't want to call an ambulance, and then what's going to happen to the children? So I guess that's one aspect. What I'm saying is it different forms of anxiety. Like that was one for me. Mm-hmm. I think my daughter has an anxiety where it's when it's time for her to do her studies at school.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if people are flipping pages, it disrupts her thinking. So that's a whole different, because we had a test for that anxiety. So is it different levels of anxiety?
Right? I think it can be as different as there are different people, and because it can also be expressed in different ways. I mean, there is social anxiety. People cannot be in crowds. They don't feel comfortable. Performance anxiety. People have anxiety just speaking in front of other people as well. There's all different forms of it. It's very interesting that you highlighted anxiety attacks, because a lot of people, if you've never had one before, there are times people think they're dying.
Yes.
I mean, your heart's racing. You might feel nauseated, and sometimes people black out. They don't even know what's happening if you've never. And so it's very scary. Sometimes you're driving, like you said, you have kids in the car, and so when you don't know what that is. But now there are ways to, once you realize that that's what you're having an anxiety attack, there are ways to treat that, especially, in the future with medications, learning coping skills. But I will definitely say it is very scary, and people could go, months, years sometimes not realizing, because you don't know when it's going to come on. You don't.
Right.
It's triggered by something, and you don't always know when it's going to. And so a lot of it is external factors. You're talking about an anxiety attack. It can be triggered by being in an environment that you're not comfortable in.
So can you really relate anxiety? Well, I guess, can you put anxiety in that field of mental health? You understand that question? I'm like, because I had anxiety attack, but then if you tell me, well, you might need to, it might be, something mental. I'm like, no, I'm okay. Just a little anxiety. I was anxious. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So do people get, I guess, offended when you characterize that part as a part of the mental health?
I think what I would probably look at that specifically is digging in to see how often something like that had happened and what the triggers are. So there's something called generalized anxiety disorder. And so it's tricky because it's not really a disorder. It's basically your external situation is affecting your mood. And when that situation is no longer in existence, then you're usually fine. So I will say a lot of my clients, if they don't have mainly a history of acute mental, disorder or acute mental issues, it's usually generalized anxiety disorder, where we work on coping on what the situation is, that it could be at work, again, managing, being a parent, in their relationship, it could be many different things. And we work to see what the way we can cope with that, or how we can resolve the situation altogether. And then it changes their mood. So it kind of depends on how long you've been struggling, what the effects, what are your side effects, how is it presenting in your mood, and so sometimes it is a matter of, okay, your job is not that great, you're having stress from your manager or the load you carry at work. Let's change. I've had clients who had to change their job, and I walk through that with them, and then they get the new job and they feel so much better and realize it was the job, it was poor management, things that they could not control. So it's not always a mental illness per se or a diagnosis. It could be just a general situation where your environment does not suit your goals and your needs. And sometimes you have to work with someone to figure out what's not aligned here, because I always tell people the difference between your expectations and goals and where you are in life, if that gap is large, that's your anxiety. If you can bring down where the goals and the life you like to live to where you are, or kind of decrease that gap, that lessens your anxiety. But again, if you have expectations of yourself and the goals you have, and you're just not reaching them, clearly you're gonna feel anxious. Or be depressed, because you don't feel like you're walking out and living out the life you should live or what you want to live. So my goal is to decrease the gap between where you are and where you want to be, because there's a whole lot of mood disorder and frustration, anxiety, depression. And that's why I say people come to me and they just feel stuck, because they don't know how to decrease that space between what they want and where they are.
Wow.
So you listen. I was going to be quiet because that conversation just got juicy and that was great what you just said right there. And a lot of us don't understand what being stuck actually could be in your life. How do we get out of not being stuck, Kendra? What's a good? Because I want to stay in that vein, okay? And we talked about being stuck. What's a solution? What's a coping mechanism or something that we can use for not being stuck? And I want to throw it in there real quick so we can say that we at least gave the people something to think about, okay?
When I work with clients, in this area. I specifically have them. Sometimes it's the first couple of sessions we have. Is I need them to write down goals. A lot you don't know if you don't know where you're going. I want to help people get there, but we just need to know. And for every client, it's different. And so being able to do the reflection, sometimes it's journaling, and really come back to the next session saying, okay, I've really thought about this. I've talked to my significant other. I've talked to my mom. I've talked to my best friend. I really sat down and thought about it. I prayed about it. And this is what I really want. This is why there is a lack of alignment and why I'm frustrated. And so, it's being able to speak to that, because again, if you don't know where you want to go, then it's really hard to build a path to get there. And a lot of people they know they're not happy, they're not comfortable, but they don't know what they want. And that's just like taking time to have silence and thought. Sometimes you really have to sit with yourself and bake in quiet time. It doesn't always have to be, in prayer, but sometimes you just really need to, in your day when you're just running from one thing to the next and you're on your phone all the time on social media. How often do you take 10, 15 minutes and sit down and just think, and reflect? Because if that time isn't there, I think that's where that comes from, is having the time to really look inward and try to figure out what is it that I want, so that you can get the help. You have to be able to speak to that, though. Only you can answer that question.
That was good that you said that yesterday, and not to bring up something, but a young lady that we had a conversation with yesterday, she was holding in something, and I feel like after she was able to talk about it to us and release it, it gave her some hope and some type of direction. Like you said, it gave you something to look forward to, because when you don't have nothing to, and especially as young people,
right?
I was going to ask you a question about how is social media affecting our mental health and our mental society, and you spoke to that a little bit, but it all comes back to understanding that it takes a conversation, it takes to speak to something, it takes to get into alignment. We talked about that with Raymond on with his book about getting into alignment with what's going on with yourself mentally. So the key thing that I took from what you said is you have to know what's your next steps always, and then journaling or speaking or however is the best way to get unstuck. You have to know what the direction is in life. Go ahead.
And so I call it the magic question. I will ask my clients, if we remove all barriers, money, connections, and I can either write you a blank check or connect you with, Bill Gates or someone famous or someone who could fund your dreams. What are the dreams? If someone came to you and said, I will make your dreams come true. I'll bring connections, money, resources. Sometimes people don't know, they still don't know the answer. And that is the main question. Yes. Yeah. So it's, again, only you can do the work inside to say, okay, this is what I bring to the table. This is my true passion. This is what I'm doing right now, but this is what I really want to do. And this is why I feel miserable. I feel stuck because, but again, you have to be able to speak to that. So that's the magic question. If there were no barriers, money, education, I guess connections, what do you see yourself doing that you're not doing right now? And sometimes it's relationship. I'm not married. I want to be married. I never went to college. I want that degree. Whatever it is. Children. I don't have children. I would like to have children. There are so many, goals and things that people strive for, and just knowing them.
So Kendria, so I'm trying to make sure I understand you. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna give you a scenario. A lot of girls' fathers were not in their lives,
right?
And so they might have had a stepfather, something of that nature. So if I'm gonna use myself as an example. If I came and said, "Well, hey, Kendria, my biological father wasn't in my life, but I had a stepdad." Mm-hmm. But I watch TV and I see the girls, the daddy-daughter dances and different things, and I get a little anxiety. So are you saying you will ask me, I guess, what are my goals with my biological father? Or what is it that I need, or what am I seeking? Is that the best way to I guess, tackle that? Because I really don't know. I'm like, He ain't been there. I mean, he called me the other day and Teddy said, "How did you feel?" I was like, "Well, he don't know talk. I just listened, what he had to say, but it was a good conversation because he was telling me about his family, and I never did say because he was talking about his dad. I never did say, "Oh, you talking about my grandfather?" I said, "Oh, your dad." You know what I'm saying? So that was like a strange, but then it kind of messed with me mentally because I was like, "Well, you didn't call. I mean, that's your dad, and you didn't call none of his siblings, aunties, or." Then I was like, "Well, your sister," and because I don't really know them like that.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So I guess if someone, if I was to come to you, what I have to, your question was of the goal. I don't even know my goal. I guess my goal is like he wasn't there. So, but why do I have these feelings? Is it because I'm a grown woman and missed all that childhood, daddy, daughter time?
And that's exactly what we would explore. When it comes to relationships like that, I would ask client, we'd go down, memory road. We'd go down memory lane. Because in my first session with a client, I need to pull history. I need to know, what are some sticking points? When I ask, as an adult now, can you look back at some of the things that happened in your past as a child? I always ask about, where were you raised? Who raised you? Were there any conflicts in your home? Because I want to know, as an adult, is there anything that you think that has negatively impacted you as an adult that probably happened in the past? And a lot of times there is. Rarely do I have a client who doesn't have anything to say. And even if they don't think there is, I start asking about who raised them, issues they've had in school, and then they all of a sudden, and then I start picking and pulling. I call it pulling back the onion, like layer by layer, and then sometimes they'll by the end of it they're in tears because they didn't even realize they felt this way about this person. And so I think what I'd have to do is ask, what are some of your memories you had from the very beginning about this person, about your stepfather, and try to figure out if you can verbalize to me how you feel. What overall, is it positive? Is it negative? Were you hurt? Is there any trauma at all? Did you see how he interacted with other people that you didn't like? Or you did, or other family members, other children in that realm. What do you think was either missing? And so, by those conversations, you start pulling, information out, and you start seeing or the client will start seeing, okay, I get it. I didn't know that I felt this way. And sometimes the hard part, and I tell clients this in almost every session. We have no control over other people. So the work we do is acknowledging how you feel about someone. I have a lot of clients who have issues with parents, the mother that never really gave them validation. Women who have mothers, who
Mother's Day.
But they just can't. They never, even as adults now, and their mothers are still alive, but they just there's just something there in that relationship that they never really connected. And so we have these conversations and sometimes we are able to write letters that are never sent, addressed, because it's sometimes, on majority of the times, it really is about us being okay with how we feel and knowing that we're going to be okay if we never get the validation or the apology from someone else, because you can't force that.
Right.
So we would have to really dig in and say, do you feel like you need an apology is something missing in the relationship you had with your stepfather? And did you think that he owed you more than he was capable of giving? Because people only love as much as they're capable of. I don't know how much love he had to pass down. That's what did he see as an example of love? Because that could be a barrier for some people. They don't know how to, and they do the best they can. And so I think that would be a question. And is there a way that we can be okay with resolving this on our own? Because you may never get the closure on certain situations that you thought you could. And some people are still waiting decades for closure that they may not get from someone.
So Kendria, do you ever have a client that is like several things? I mean, what I'm saying? Like you may have daddy daughters, you might have something at work. So do you just tackle one at a time, or you cluster all of them together?
I go with what's the most acute. One of the questions is, what brings you to therapy? And a lot of times there is something that's very acute that's really causing maladaptive behavior.
Okay.
Or something where, they're isolating. I need to know, I always ask about symptoms. In the beginning of every session, I ask, what have your symptoms been since you've seen me last? Because I want to see them improving. If they're not improving, then we really need to address that. But racing thoughts, isolation, the sleep, not sleeping, having restful sleep, not eating, having really poor appetite. And so we address those things, and we need to tie them to, is there something specific that has happened that you can connect those symptoms to? And so that is how I choose, what situation we are going to address the most. We're going to prioritize. It's based off what is causing such acute symptoms where you are not functioning. Because I am all about functioning. When someone asks me, do you think I need therapy? Well, how are you functioning? Are you not sleeping? Do you have no motivation to shower and go to work? I have clients who they're not going to work. They don't want to go to work. They are not motivated. They're feeling, the low in mood, and it's just kind of taking over. And so we have to address that. And so that's kind of how we're selective about it, because you can't hit up everything all at once. It's overwhelming. But we do need to address the things that will cause someone not to function, because then we can't continue in the future. We have to be able to put one foot in front of the other. What is keeping us from moving forward? Because then we can't address anything else if we can't cope in general and do our basic functioning.
Okay. And one more question. No, Tia said she's hogging up all the questions.
No. Hold on. Let me say something real quick. You all are answering every question that I was going to throw out. You are taking care of it without me even having to answer.
Well, we got to get a Lord credit for that. Got to get a Lord credit for that.
Y'all, it is so amazing what you all are talking about right now. And I'm going to sit back and smile and let you all keep going.
So my next question for you is it I know everybody has a different fix, right? Do you have clients that stay in therapy for 5 years? Is it a timeline as long as you need? Some people stay for the rest of their life.
I'm really glad you asked that question. So when I do a consultation with a new prospective client, I will, give them the spiel, tell them all the things, about therapy, especially if they've never had a therapist. One of the things I always tell them is my treatment plans are 6 months. I do a treatment plan only 6 months out, because I assume that whatever we're working with when it comes to anxiety and depression, usually within 6 months we're progressing. We've, kind of cleaned through to see what in our past has caused some of the behavior and symptoms, and what we want to work on. We got some goals, and I use those goals when I create treatment plans. I always tell new clients that I never want someone to say to me, I've been seeing Kendria for a while, and I'm not really getting anywhere, and so how do I break up with my therapist? Because I actually had someone come to me in a consultation and say, I have been seeing this therapist for over a year, because I always ask, what brings you to therapy? I've seen this therapist for a while, and I'm not really getting much, and I just don't know how to break up with her. And that was in the beginning of my career. And I was like, I don't want anyone to ever say that about me. So I have designed it where I'm looking basically 6 months out, because 6 months is half the year, is pretty good amount of time where we should see some progress. So that is kind of, and I think that puts people at ease, because the idea of, for some people, coming to a therapist and wanting to, open up about all these personal things is hard enough as it is. The idea of tying yourself to this person long term, almost like it's a marriage, it can be very daunting. 6 months is usually doable for most people, especially if they've never had a therapist. So, again, treatment plan, we set goals. To me, it's, you meet the client where they are. So I'm here for you. What do you want to work on? And that is kind of how, I see it. And now if we need to do more after the 6 months, that's perfectly fine. But a lot of times it will be, not every week. It might be every other, it might be once a month. And so we space it out based off of what we're dealing with. And if we still even have the same issue that we had in the beginning, we may not.
Yes. I love what you just said about catering to the situation, because 6 months could heal the person or take them there. But normally it would take longer than that. And I got to throw this question in there real quick. How do some people sabotage their healing when going through sessions with you? How do they how do they sabotage that healing point sometimes?
I think what I've seen with a lot of my clients is that when they go back to levels of comfort patterns, so, they come to therapy because a lot of times people are at their wits' end. They have tried in their own might to fix whatever the situation is, to heal. And they have realized that they need help. And so I work with the client, we have goals, we have, we set up, a plan, we're practicing our coping skills. And then depending on what's happening, sometimes they revert back and regress back to the patterns they had in the past. And here's one really good example is relationships. I have had clients who know that the dating relationship or whatever it was unhealthy. And a lot of times it brought them to therapy because they were shocked, like, well, how did I even get into this? And then, whether it be like loneliness or certain things, even though we understand rationally why the relationship wasn't healthy and we shouldn't go back, they get that phone call, they get that text message, and then they go back. So the self-sabotage is a lot of times, and it's hard, but it's reverting back to old patterns and habits that we are working to break the cycle of. Because a lot of times people have been doing the maladaptive behavior for a long time, and again, they need the help to get out of it. And so when we sometimes slip back into those habits, it could be, for instance, substance use. Another example, I talked about relationships already. There's just certain behaviors that we are creatures of habit. Human beings are creatures of habit. So sometimes we're like, yeah, I know that's not good for me, but at least it's comfortable because I know that person. Oh yeah, but there's a reason why we didn't want to be with that person. So I am there to remind them and ask them, like, well, have our goals changed? Is this what is this what you want now? I'm here for you. So if we're trying to make this relationship work again, guess this is where we are. This is the new normal, and we're going to work from there. I remind them that we can't change people. So I'm only working with the client. I'm not working with their ex or anyone else. So we have to come to terms with that. But that's usually the regression I see is falling back into old patterns.
Church, where Pastor Darren Freeman and Lady Adrienne Lewis Freeman are our leaders. We are the church where we love God and love God's people. Remember, we want you here. We want you here.
And do you have people that repeat? Like, let's say you healed me, and then a year later, I'm coming back for the same issue. You heal me. Maybe 2 years later, I'm coming back. Do you have repeat offenders like that?
I have to say, I haven't had many. I have had clients come back because of usually a new situation that they didn't see coming and they just need help coping with. But I like to say that majority, even if it takes more than a year, more than 6 months, a year or so, usually the coping skill, they have the coping skills. Now, whether they practice them every day or all the time, but they usually have the coping skills and they're coming back because there's this situation that they did not expect, and then you might need a refresher. And I think that's what I usually see. It's not usually falling back into the same track. It's usually this is something different. I did, you got a job that I thought was great and it isn't so much, and certain things like that is where I see people returning.
So, depression, I know I'm 54. And so growing up, we never used that word, depression, anxiety. So what do you think is different in society today versus when I came up? Because like I say, we didn't have all that. It probably was there, but we didn't know what it was. But this day and time, it's like everybody. Because everybody you talk to is like, I have a therapist. And if you don't have one, it make you feel like, well, maybe I need one because everybody has one. So what do you think is changed since then, back in my age group to now? It's like everybody, even the younger ones, have to have therapy?
So this could go in two different directions because I think there's a negative and a positive with this. I think it is fantastic, especially in the Black community, that more people are, kind of combating the stigma of getting help, having a therapist, speaking to their doctors, getting on a medication if needed, or just having psychotherapy, psychotherapy is talk therapy. That's just a fancy word of saying talk therapy. So I think that is fantastic. People seem to be more comfortable and open about talking about that. The other side of this is I think more people will probably end up needing therapy because of social media. I will have to say, the phrase comparison is the thief of joy. I think when you get on social media and people are showing you a lot of the shiny parts of their lives and omitting the grind and the struggle and the monotony that they're not showing on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, it leaves us to believe that something is wrong with us, with our lives, because it doesn't look that shiny. I'm not always on vacation in Aruba or whoever I'm following. And, I'm not always able to wear name brand, whatever it is. And so if you clock how many hours you're spending, because if a smartphone, it'll tell you how much time you're spending on these different apps. And you realize, why am I in a funk and feeling low mood? A lot of times you can connect that back to how much time you're spending on these platforms staring at other people's lives. So I feel like, especially with clients of mine, I have a lot of young female, like mid-20s to 30s, and I cannot tell you how many of them come to me because they're stuck, because they don't think that where they are is where they should be. And I find out that what they really are comparing themselves to, classmates they had in college who, are, in their careers and in grad school by now and are married and have kids and own their home, and I have to continuously kind of redirect that thought process and saying that everyone has a unique situation. We can't compare ourselves, but a lot of times it's social media. They are looking at other people's lives. And back then, social media came out, I think Facebook was around 2000, probably 2005, as one of the predominant social media platforms. So before that, the comparison, I don't think that was happening. If you could answer, it wasn't so obvious for you to be able to look at other people's lives and say, something is missing in my life. I'm not so easily able to access X, Y, and Z. I feel behind. So I think that the need for social media and feeling specifically depressed or low in mood, the need for therapy, that's coming from the proliferation of spending so much time being able to open the door and see what people are willing to show, what they're willing. It's not about the truth about what their real life is, but they're showing you a pretty version of what their life is. And all you can do is kind of look at that and compare yourself and say, I'm not there, so something must be wrong, when it's not.
I got to jump in right there, and it's amazing that you brought up that analogy. I think about even me and this young lady, we've been married 35 years. I've been in business 30-something years. We've been through the struggle of seeing what life throws at you. She just sat there and told you about a moment in her life to where she had an anxiety attack, to where she felt like she was dying. I had a heart attack.
Yes.
2 years ago. Okay. I've seen my business go up. I've seen my business go down. I've seen family members hurt me, treat me like I'm not their family. I've seen friends. I've seen people come and go. I've seen people have to understand that life valleys are going to happen.
Exactly.
And I totally understand what you're saying about how social media will throw something out there. And I thank God that He didn't give us our platform to, after we've been through the bruise and we've been through the beating, we've been through the suffering, to understand that we're not just up here we're trying to put out great content and get people to understand that you can make this thing happen, or you can get in alignment with your mindset and doing things. Because one of the key things that I feel like I'm getting from what you're talking about, we have to get back into being obedient to your lifestyle, with knowing you must write things down. You must speak things into life. You must always be obedient, and always, what you said, bridge the gap between where you want to be and where you think you should be. Where's that middle gap? So it's a lot of great things that you are saying tonight, Kendra, and I'm praying that the people are understanding and grabbing what you're saying. Life is a journey. It's not a sprint, you all. This life that we live, if you want to see what it's going to bring. Now, you got some people that don't care. I care about making it to, I want to make it to at least 95 with a sound mind. So I'm saying this to throw this next question. What does a healthy mindset, if it's a definition or if it's something that you can give, what does a healthy mindset sound like, look like? What is the definition of a healthy mindset from someone of your stature or from a doctor's point of view? What does a healthy mindset look like?
I think some of the things that jump out at me when I think of a healthy mindset, especially when I'm evaluating a prospective client in consultation, is the ability to be resilient. It is okay to struggle in life. I think that, especially with my younger clients, I'm trying to really help them to understand that it's inevitable. You are going to struggle, and the beauty of the fact that provides the context and the foundation for growth. We don't want to try to avoid struggle. I mean, because life will bring that. It's just the resilience of being able to learn from these things and move on. So the coping skills that we're working on is the ability to struggle, to get back up, and to process what's happened, because that's a big part of therapy, is processing what we have to process it. We don't just swallow it and say, or can compartmentalize it. We say, wow, we verbalize that was horrible. I hope that doesn't happen again. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that someone did that to me, but I'm going to acknowledge how that felt, and I'm going to move on. So I think resilience is one of the key things, and also being able to speak to be vulnerable, to be able to speak to our feelings. Some people can't, there be pride, arrogance, whatever. Some people, the idea of sitting down and really being able to reflect and being able to say, a parent hurt me, and really being able to say, I don't know why I feel this way about this person, but maybe, there was something they weren't able to give me, and I wanted the love from them. It is hard as adults who don't think that way to speak, empathetically and vulnerably about our own situation and things that we kind of wish we had, or the fact that someone has hurt us, and then we're living with that. It is not easy. And so hearing people having the language to say that about what they've experienced, and it's a part of emotional intelligence. And so I think when I hear that, I know, okay, we're gonna be okay. Everyone needs coping skills. Everyone can refine. Even a therapist. Therapists have therapists. I mean, we're human beings, part of the human condition. We're always able to improve, especially even as Christians. Able to improve and able to, really dig in and say, what is it that God wants for us next? We're not perfect. We know that. The Bible tells us we're not perfect. We know that. So I think that is the main thing. It's the emotional intelligence, it's empathy, it's forgiveness, forgiving ourselves and able to forgive others, especially if we once again know that we cannot change other people, and you may not get the forgiveness from someone else that you think you deserve. Are you going to be able to get up and move forward? Or are we going to sit and circle that mountain over and over again for another decade or plus? So that is a big one.
Let's stay there a little second. Just a second. Forgiving. When you say the word forgive, we all know that we want it from them, but we don't understand, and people say it so much that the forgiveness, that thing is not for them. It's actually for you. The forgiveness, you have to want to forgive them, even if they don't apologize. Mm-hmm. You should want to forgive them, because that's going to help heal or help you, put you in a space. So how do you get there? How do you really, truly, when you've been, because I just got hurt today from a conversation, but I took that conversation and I was like, okay, I guess does age help you get better at it?
Well, the context of being hurt by people in the past and knowing that you'll be able to be okay is something that there's just so much there when you've lived life. Because again, that is what's missing from some of my younger clients who are again mid-20s or so and just don't have that context. That provides resilience. You knowing that you can be hurt by someone and still move on and be successful and do the thing. That is, not everyone has that, but that comes with time. And so I think as what you were saying, we're going to get hurt. And we don't have the control to tell people that, that you need to forgive me. That's not how that works. I think I just spend a lot of time processing with my clients for what happened, why do they feel that way, and just kind of doing the work on our own end. Because again, we don't have control over someone coming to saying, I really did mess up and I hurt you and I'm sorry. So you may not get that. But what else can we do? Sometimes, again, we write as a letter to the person. My big thing is helping a client control the narrative, because the narrative of I was hurt and I'm a victim, it is not helpful in the future. So you may have been the victim, but the victim mentality, I think we all know that, like, where is that going to take us? So how do we change the victim mentality? Well, it is processing. We are never going to ignore that what someone did to us, but we are going to process it. We could talk about it every session for 3 months. It's fine. I tell them that, the breakup. Tell me about the breakup again. Tell me about it again. 3 weeks later, tell me. But what I find is people eventually lose the gas about it. Like they lose the juice here. Like they've talked about it and they've talked about it. And they talk about it to the point where the narrative changes and it's like, well, I didn't like what they did to me, but I'm okay now. I'm okay. I'm moving on. And so we just have to process it until they're sick of talking about it a lot of times.
Then I'm gonna tell you a practice that I just really took a hold on to in my marriage to this young lady, you all. 35 years. And it took me maybe the last 2 years of the 35 to start to realize if a conflict happens, think about quickly how you can make it become a laughing situation, or you can ease the mood. Mm-hmm. Stop thinking when stuff or something is said, because we were in a place to where in our life, you ought to where if I said something or she said something, we'll take it and we'll hold that thing. Mm-hmm. We'll let it resonate. We'll let it sit hours, days sometimes. Yeah. Now, if it's a conflict, as soon as I turn and it's a conflict, I'm like, okay, what can I do to make the conflict go away? What can I do? And I guess I can say that happened with my age, but we have to get there sooner, y'all, because this is the best place in life to be able to say, okay, I'm not going to let what just happened mess up hours of the day, because we could take hours and days over conflict or not want to forgive instead of just taking the time out to say, okay, instantly, what can I do to fix this? What can I do to make this better? It's like people like to hold on to trauma and anger. It's like it's another drug, basically. Exactly. And people like to have attitudes and divas. We got a lot of divas. My wife was a diva. Yeah. Let me stop.
I speak about that all the time. I will tell you. That comes up a lot in therapy. One of the things is I tell people the benefit of the doubt. I think that we're in an age where we're not giving people enough benefit, because especially in a marriage with a partner, there's a reason why you're with that person. Absolutely. That person is not all evil. So when something happens and you're not happy about it, I feel like there should be built in some moment where it's like, where you reflect and say, does this person really mean me harm? And make sure that the reaction that you have is connected to the fact that you were able to give that person the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, and because some people, like you said, they like the drama. And I talk to a lot of my clients and say, listen, you're not on reality TV, you're not on Bravo. No one's paying you to live in that drama. Yeah. No one pays you. Even on Bravo, people are being paid to act crazy. But that's not how, in a real life, it is draining. Drama and trauma is draining. That's not a way to live. Cortisol levels being high because you're mad all the time, not sleeping and eating. Who's paying you to be mad? So if there's no check involved in that, I mean, let's move on and say benefit of the doubt. Did my mom really mean me harm when she made that off the cuff comment? Did my husband, I may not have liked the way he said it, but I married him. And I wouldn't change that. So at the end of the day, I think he's a good I still believe he's a good person. And I just wish, with all the keyboard warriors out there on social media, I really wish that we could do more, give people more of the benefit of the doubt and just take one beat and say, before I go in, what is this relationship I have? I care about this person. I do believe this person cares about me. So do I really, really need to lay in here? Or can I take a moment and say, okay, this could have been just a mistake. Maybe they didn't mean the tone.
It's normally the tone.
It's usually the tone.
It's normally the tone.
I will say that.
Because the conversation normally is okay. It's the way, like I said all the time, it's your presentation.
Yes.
Always. And some people don't understand that your presentation or just a simple way you look at me when you're saying it can trigger something in a relationship or with someone. And ladies, I got to throw this out there. Ladies, men are intelligent. I think, I read, I do everything I do. So when you're saying something to me as a woman, don't look at me like you don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna look back at you like you don't know what you're talking about, and that's when it's gonna cause a conflict. So I'm learning as a real man that's trying my best to cope with a woman and do. I say immediately, and this is for all men, immediately stop the argument. Stop making it escalate because you have control. I was talking to a brother at church yesterday and I said, I control my woman. If I want her to calm down, I'm gonna come to you calm. But if I want you to escalate, I know how to make her escalate. And sometimes I do it on purpose just to show her that I got control over your escalation.
Yeah, and so one of the things
that's not good.
The thing you just said is this is the key though. You said the word trigger.
Yes.
So this is this phrase, this word is used so often. But I will tell you, especially in a marriage, usually the triggers. And so for me in therapy, I will ask, especially when there might be some kind of, really heated arguments or where they're really wondering if they're still going to stay married. It's about, are you able to speak to what triggers you? And when you know a certain tone or certain words or bringing up certain things from the past are the triggers, then what are we going to do about it? Because if you can speak to the fact that, yes, what he said triggered me and then I didn't speak to him for 3 days. Well, does he know what the triggers are? Can we communicate on the fact that there are certain areas where you just don't want to go there? Like, don't bring up someone's father or mother. Don't do, because it's going to be a trigger.
Yeah,
like you said, and you can manage people that way. Like, if you want to really start a fight, then bring up my mama. Like, so
amen.
That's the thing.
On that one.
And so it's easier to have these conversations usually in a marriage because, again, it's a benefit of the doubt. Like, I would like to believe that if you go to your spouse and say, listen, these are the 3 things that if you do this, it's going to trigger me and we're going to start fighting. So if you really want to have a conversation when we resolve something, do not say these things or use that tone. So if everyone knows the rules of this game, then we should be able to play a lot nicer. But the problem is, like you said, if you're gonna use the triggers against yourselves, then you're gonna have the reaction that you probably deserve.
And I apologize because I know how to use triggers very well. I do.
Yes, you're a trigger expert.
Trigger happy.
Yes, he keeps his finger on the trigger.
There you go.
Well, I'm telling you what, because he likes to compare me to my mom, and I don't feel like I'm nothing like her, but he throws that, and it just sits. Because I was like, did I say anything about your mama?
There you go.
So yeah,
and there you go. And I call it. It's a spiral to the bottom. You just basically spiraling down to the bottom.
Right, it spirals all the way to the bottom.
Hold on, because we got to get this out before this show is over with. I got to get because this was good that you said that. But I'm the one who saw her grow up from 19 to now.
Okay,
and
what they got to do?
Wait. And I saw and listened to the trauma and the things that she talked about. Not to say that, it was life. It was things that happened. So I saw, and then I watched her mother as well. And then I watched her act the same exact way in situations. That's why I say those things to her and I bring it up. It's from my own evaluation. It's not from
then I mean it's right.
Kendra,
I will
come on.
say
Come
also,
on.
it probably depends on when you choose to use, because to
to
me that's
use it.
ammunition. You have to
Hello?
be very careful, like, because you probably, if you're in a heated conversation and then you choose that time to say, hey, by the way, I've noticed these behavioral patterns that come from your mom. Even you could be right, but that is not the place, because you're not going to get the results that you want. Now, if things were calm and you just happen to say, hey, I'd like to talk to you about something that I've just noticed that may help us improve our communication. There's certain behaviors, and then be open, because she may turn around and be like, well, I also, not to be tit for tat, but would like to talk to you about certain things I've noticed. But I think it depends on when you choose to have that conversation, because it will be falling on deaf ears if it's in the middle of, because you're going to get defensiveness. It's defensiveness.
Absolutely. Presentation always.
Yeah.
It's always going to come back to presentation. but I'm glad that we're able to have those conversations. And
Benefit of the doubt too, though.
And like I said, y'all, because I got to bring it back, I do make sure that I keep everything calm now. I try my best.
Yes, you do. Come in and sugarcoat it up. But I got a question.
Yes.
So Kendra, how do you find a good therapist? And I'm gonna tell you, because I'm very particular. So I'm like, I want to find me a therapist, but I don't want, because I've selected doctors that I thought was good.
Yes.
But I don't get that undivided attention. So to me, I've wasted my time. So I don't want to feel like that picking a therapist. Does that make sense? So I think there's a lot of reasons why I haven't picked one, because I'm like, I picked the wrong one. Because sometimes I do the reviews, I look at them, but you get in the room, it's something totally different.
That is very true. So that can be a little tricky, because you don't know what you don't know. So you can read a profile online, and therapists should be offering a consultation, hopefully a free one. I know some therapists charge for consultations, and I don't understand that, but it's a fact-finding mission. It's like an interview. And I think people also, they need to know that it's not just them interviewing you to see if they want you as a client. You are definitely the one making sure that you want to, meet with the person and divulge your life to that person. But at the end of the day, just like with doctors, or even just on a job, you interview, maybe you have 2-3 rounds of interview, then you go to the job and you're like, this is gonna be great. And then you're like, you get a month in, you're like, this is not what I thought it was. Sometimes that does happen with therapists as well. I've had clients come to me from other therapists, and sometimes it can be a matter of time. Like maybe for the first couple of months, things were really great. Then a year plus and it petered out, and there's nothing really happening. They're not really learning. So it may not be right off the bat. It may be over time. But when you read the profile, you meet with them during the consultation. I guess it depends on the questions, if you know what questions to ask, to make sure that you know that they can meet your needs. Because a therapist, they can say, but you can ask them, like, what type of modalities do you use as far as like for depression, anxiety, certain things like CBT, cognitive behavioral, therapy. There's all different types. And so learning a little bit about, how they treat certain, disorders or mood issues, that will help as well. But at the end of the day, it is really hard to guarantee that when you're meeting someone for the first time, that they're going to be able to hold space and handle all the things. Context of who the person is can also help. I will say that I have a lot of young female African American clients, because they see my profile picture, and there are some things that we talk about that are almost unspoken. Like, I know what they mean without them having to say, well, I'm a Black young woman in the corporate world. And I understand microaggressions. Okay. Not everyone would, So those are some things to think about as well. And I'm not saying that a Black client can't work with a white therapist, but if there are certain things specifically that are again, like the work environment and issues you're having with a manager, you may think about those the ideas of what you're looking for and who may be able to help you. But ask the questions. Do not be afraid to blatantly say, have you worked with a client on this specific issue before? And what modality did you use? But it's okay to say after a couple of weeks or so, that, I don't think it's not easy, but I don't think this is working out because this is what I need. Do they have a treatment plan for you? Are there goal setting? That should be up front. You should have a treatment plan, goal setting. You should be agreeing on the plan. If no one's doing that for you, then what are we working on? So that's when you'd say, this is what I'm expecting, and it's not happening. But therapy does take time, so you kind of have to gauge that. And I think usually within a couple of weeks or a couple of sessions, clients usually know whether they feel like they're being helped or not. Okay. That's probably the best answer, because there is no one and done situation where it's like, go to this website and you'll just meet this perfect therapist. But I will say Psychology Today is probably where I would tell most people to go, because most therapists I think are on that website, and you can sort by your insurance. You can see pictures of all the therapists. That's very helpful as well, and read their profiles and see what they prioritize and what they specialize in. That is a very helpful way to find a therapist.
Excellent.
And you all, I hate to end this conversation, but it's been a great conversation. It's been something tonight, you all. Thank you so much, Kendra.
Yes, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And I am so excited to have you, first of all, as a friend. I'm going to say that, as a client, now doctor that speaks on a platform that we have. And I am just grateful to have someone like you that can come and just give us what we need from that perspective. So tonight, you all, has been great, Monica. Thank you so much. Great night. You take us on up out of here, young lady. Take us out.
Once again, yes. Thank you, Kendra, Dr. Kendra. You've been listening to Tab Nashville Gospel Radio 104.1, as well as Sacrificial Conversations. Please always join us on Mondays between 6 and 7, and then on our YouTube channel, Sacrificial Conversations. I hope you all enjoyed tonight. Have a blessed afternoon.